Welcome back, Math 2. Today we are going to be talking about factoring trinomials again, but we're moving on to some a little bit more bigger and complex equations. So far you've learned how to solve quadratics with square roots and with basic factoring, sort of like this. So if I have x squared plus 5x plus 6, I just need to put x in each parenthesis, and I know that I need to use 2 and 3 because 2 times 3 equals 6, and 2 plus 3 equals 5. So that was our basic factoring. I'm going to call that an a equals 1 trinomial because if you remember from standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c, a, b, and c are all just different numbers. And in this case, the example I just did, the number in front of x squared is just a 1. Okay. What we are going to talk about today is what happens, though, if there is a different number in front of that x squared. So, for example, let's say we had like 12x squared plus 10x minus 7. I'm just making stuff up. Okay. Well, because we have that 12 there, when I make my two parentheses, I can't just start off with x and x because now there's a number in there as well. So I'm like, okay, how did they get that number? Did they do 12 times 1? Did they do 6x times 2x? Or did they do 3x times 4x? I don't know which one they did, and having all of these different numbers is going to affect the other factors inside the rest of the parenthesis. So instead today, we are going to learn about something called the AC method. And it's called the AC method because we are going to be using A and C to create our trinomial, or create our factored form. Okay? So let's write down some steps, and we're going to be doing 2 examples today. Now, I know some of you really liked the box method and some of you did not. We are going to learn how to do this with a box, and if you really don't like it, let me know, and I promise I will show you how to do it differently. Okay? And we're going to do an example simultaneously while we write down the steps. So our example is going to use this equation. Okay? My first step is to take A times C. That's a times sign. Okay, so if you want to, above your example here, label that this is A, this is B, and this is C, what I'm doing is taking 8 times 3, and that will give me 24. Okay. My second step is that I want to find factors of A times C that add to make B. Okay. So I'm going to just quickly list out all the factors of 24 that I can think of. So there's 1 and 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. So I want the one that is going to give me 10. Okay. And that would be 4 and 6. 4 and 6 together make 10. Okay. Step 3, I'm going to make a box. And I'm actually going to draw the picture here. It's always going to be the same type of box, just a little 2x2 box. Okay. Draw it a little, give yourself some space on the top and the side of this box. Okay. And then I also want to write that we're going to fill the box. Okay. Now, if you use the box method when we were multiplying, we started with numbers on the outside and we filled up the inside, kind of like a Punnett square in biology. But this time, we're going to fill up the inside and work our way out. Okay. So here are the pieces that are going to go in it. One piece or the first two pieces are going to be the first and last terms of your equation. So in the top left corner, I'm going to have 8x squared, and in the bottom one, I'm going to have 3. Okay, those are always in opposite corners. The other two corners, what I'm essentially doing is I'm saying, okay, I had a 10x, but I'm trying to split that up, because remember, I'm trying to work backwards, figure out what made this thing. So I'm going to separate it into that 4x and 6x that I've discovered earlier. Okay, so those are going to go into my other two boxes. Okay. It doesn't matter which one went where. If you put 6 in the top and 4 in the bottom, that would be fine as well. Okay. All right, this takes us to step 4. Okay, so we've made our box, we filled it. Now we're going to do step 4. We are going to look at each row and column for the greatest common factor. For the greatest common factor. Okay. Here's what I mean by that. Okay. I'm going to start off by looking at this column, 8x squared and 6x. Okay. Both of those, so I'm ignoring 4x and 3 right now. Both 8x squared and 6x have an x in them. So I'm going to write an x above that box. Then I'm asking, what is the biggest number that goes into both 8 and 6? So, there's obviously 1 goes into everything, but 2 is going to be the biggest number that goes into both of them. So I'm going to write a 2 on top as well. So 2x is my biggest factor. Going this way, or going with 4x and 3, I cannot pull out an x because 3 doesn't have an x, and the biggest number that goes into both of them is 1. So I'm going to put a 1 up here. Okay. Now I'm going to go the other way. So I want to do my rows. Okay. So if I look at 8x squared and 4x, they both have an x, and the biggest number that goes into both of them is 4. Okay. And also a way you can check this is multiply it back together. If I took 4x times 2x, I would get 8x squared. So that's a good indication that we did this correctly. Then in the bottom row, I have 6x and 3. I cannot pull out an x, but the biggest number that goes in is 3. Okay. So my last step is actually just to write out my answers, which are going to be what the factors that I pulled out. So one parenthesis is going to be 2x plus 1, and the other is going to be 4x plus 3. Okay. That's kind of our step 5, I guess, is to write answers. Okay. Let's do one more example. Yeah, I've got space for it. Okay. One more example. This one's going to involve a negative. Okay. So I have 2x squared plus 5x minus 3. All right. First step is to take 2 times negative 3, which makes negative 6. So because this number is negative, I need a positive and a negative. So I have 3 and 2, and then I have 1 and 6. Whoops. 6. If one of them is negative, then I am able to get a 5 by using negative 1 and 6. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and make my box. Where I'm going to put 2x squared from the top and negative 3 also from the top. And then in my other two boxes, I'm going to use the negative 1x and the 6x. You do have to include x on those. Okay, because remember, they're splitting up that 5x. Now I'm going to go through each row and each column and say, what can I pull out? So I'm going to start with 2x squared and 6x, that column. They both have an x, and the largest number that goes into both of them is 2. My next column, negative 1x and 3, I cannot pull out an x, but 1 goes into both of them. And because they're both negative, I'm going to pull out a negative 1. Now going by my rows, if I look at 2x squared and negative 1x, they both have an x in common, and the only number that goes into both of them is 1. And I'm going to leave that as a positive 1 because if I had another negative here, if you wanted to test this box here, negative times a negative would make a positive, and I need a negative 1. And in my bottom row, I have 6x and negative 3. I can't pull out an x, but I can pull out a 3. So my final answer is going to be 2x minus 1 times x, or 1x, plus 3. And that is my factored form.